Welcome to the Angelscapes podcast, where you're encouraged to uncover and develop a direct connection with your soul's power, wisdom, and spiritual intuition that is ready to blossom. We'll explore new ideas, compelling tips, and real steps to help you learn simple spiritual practices. We're a safe place to learn more about accessing your soul's power with education and spiritual wholeness that could bring more clarity to your life. Now here's your host, a practicing medium, Akashic Records practitioner, spirit artist, coach, and mentor, Dr. Reverend Nancy Smith.
What are the gifts mediumship offers, and have you considered a gentler, more compassionate side of mediumship? Hello, this is Angelscapes, and I'm your host, Nancy Smith. Joining me is Raylene Sousa for a talk on healing through mediumship. Mediumship is a sacred practice of connecting loved ones to those of us who are left here on the earth plane. Mediumship is also a connection of healing and balance, and Raylene and I are going to talk about that a little bit. But I want to tell you a little bit about Raylene before we get started. Raylene is a spiritualist medium, I should say, because she's an ordained minister in the spiritualist tradition. She's an intuitive psychic. She is a Reiki master teacher, and she's a published author. We'll have to find out a little bit more about your book in a second. She's also a certified grief educator with David Kessler, one of the leading grief experts in the field. Raylene is guided by light, love, and integrity, and she has a sense of humor and a tremendous amount of compassion, which helps her deliver her messages, and it makes her a very good conduit for spirit. It's very easy to listen to Raylene. It's very easy to talk to her. She's very approachable. She was a natural-born medium, communicating to spirit since she was little. And Raylene strives to empower others by adding tools to their toolbox in regards to mediumship and spirit communication. She studied with many teachers from New England and the UK, but you'll always hear her say that spirit is her best teacher. Raylene offers Zoom, Skype, and phone sessions, and we'll give you some more information how to contact her in a little later into the show. So welcome, Raylene. It's really very cool to have you here. You've been here before. We did a Christmas show.
Yes.
And it was, who are you inviting to your table at Christmas? We were talking about spirit and missing our loved ones and how they're with us on the holidays. But in this time, we talked about the aspect of how mediumship can help heal us. And I'd like to start by talking a little bit about your certified grief educator. Why did you do that, and what did you learn?
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me on here this evening with you and everyone. As a medium, in communicating with loved ones, both sides of the veil, I know that everyone I encounter is grieving. There's always grief. And a lot of times in that, there's that ripple effect, where there's a passing, families divide, finances change. It just goes out on and on and on. So I just found that in doing so, I just wanted to make sure that I was bringing the best that I could to the individuals I sit with, and I found out things I could add to it, and it really validated a lot that I feel as though I'm very comfortable continuing to do. So it was just something that I said, let's seek it out and see what I can get from it to help other people. Really, that's simple.
Grief goes on for a very long time. I remember listening to a lecture by David Kessler, and she was saying that this woman who had lost her child was just very bereft and said, how long am I going to feel this way? How long am I going to be out of sorts? And he said to her, honey, how long is your son going to be dead for? And really trying to move the experience from being, I had this upset in my life to now I need to find a new normal in my life. I need to find a new way, a new meaning. And does that ring true to you?
Well, the thing is that, we are never the same when we suffer such a passing that impacts us so greatly, especially the loss of a child. So what we miss is what we always thought things were going to be like and how they were. And there's all those stages of, grief, and they're not linear. There's no perfect fit. We don't get over it. I really feel as though we just find ways to grow through it and find some appreciation. I think the greatest gift people can give to others who are grieving is to talk about their loved ones, ask stories, let them share, say their name. People are so afraid to bring it up and to share because they're afraid they're going to upset them and remind them that they're not here. But they know that.
No,
They
and
live with that every second.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so I'll tell you this next story. I think listening and bringing up, letting them talk about
Yes.
the time my son, or the remember time my dad did such and just, here's a picture of my dad, just, when we went to that last trip or something, and means so much to anybody. I know I love to hear about stories from my siblings about my father, and I love to see those pictures when they pop up on Facebook 3 years ago, 5 years ago, and there's my dad sitting there, and it makes me so happy. But missing him, it's and you've lost people too, is constant. It does change how you look at life. And sometimes I think mediumship is from a soul point of view, a spiritual point of view, it's we're none of us are getting out of here alive. I mean, death is inevitable in our lives, and as mediums, we have this great gift of bringing a soul redirect. Like, look at what's going to happen after you pass. Look at this transition you're going to go through, and it's absolutely amazing and beautiful. And spirit is the surviving spirit is happy on the other side, and still learning and still growing.
Yep.
But
And
that death is about learning about what life really means. Look at that.
right. And you figure all 7 major religions in the world talk about life after life, and there's just a different path to get there. My hope is through mediumship that people receive some knowing, like through the experience of even like what we could call insider info, only personal things that they would know or would have shared with that person. And I think that that's very special because even when the spirit comes in and says, I was there when the baby was born, I kissed it first, and the baby was born maybe 3 weeks after their passing, something that we would never have knowledge of, but the person knows and it validates it. And they're like, they're not missing out on those times. They still want them there, and especially different times of year, like right now, it's a beautiful year, time of the year, the kids are going back to school, summer's going into fall. But a lot of people, as you mentioned, especially the child loss, they're seeing the yellow bus, but they're not waiting for the yellow bus. So that's really hard. So I always say, check in on someone, maybe sit with them, whether they were a parent of your child was a classmate to their child. I think that that's really important because people are so afraid to talk about or approach death, and with mediumship, we really show that it's just a transition, it's just a shift of presence, and that love's presence truly remains.
It is from our point of view, from this point of view on the earth plane, I called it, watching somebody pass to the other side is heart-wrenching, and they're there and then they're not there, and the grief is huge. I've heard as a medium from many spirits on the other side that I love you, I'm here for you, I haven't gone anywhere, I'm okay, I'm happy, it's beautiful here. And I've heard so many times it's the people that are left behind that the grief is the biggest for. I mean, I think spirit does miss us, or my dad probably misses the family and when my mom passed and all that. But we have the lion's share of grief, is what I've been told from spirit.
And
Yeah.
it's overwhelming and feeling because we're the ones that we're missing out on how things were. We're missing that person. So we're still here left with these emotions called grief, right? There could be all different words that could translate into grief, but it really comes down to trying to breathe, when the moments get tough, and where the mediumship comes in, because even though I've been a hospice volunteer, I've sat with people who've transitioned to spirit, I've supported their families, I have sat with my own loved ones, and I just can't. I tease people sometimes. They're like, well, it must be so nice, you're a medium. I go, I can't just do 1-800 dial a dad, but because my dad is in spirit. But what I say to them is that I trust spirit. I know that this isn't it or an ending. So the signs, when they come, I don't question, I doubt them anymore in my life. I just say, thanks, Dad, or thanks, so and so, if it just reminds me. And it's funny, I love to help people gain insight into how their loved ones are trying to bring them comfort. Like, one of the greatest things from the other side, they'll tell us they're happy and doing well, or if they were in a wheelchair, they can walk again. But I find a lot of healing happens in mediumship when, say, there was a dad who never said, I love you, didn't give you compliments, worked all the time because they really had to work to support the home, and felt as though that was the type of provider they could be or not. And there goes the child feeling a certain way. And as we talk about it as mediums, when we cross over, we have our life review. So we get to see how we made people feel good, bad, or indifferent. And I find that to be so true. And I love when you can just share with somebody, your dad's letting you know he wasn't one to give the hugs or the compliments or the support, or didn't really show up for you while he was here. And you just see them moved emotionally. And I go, if he could go back and do it again, he would love to. However, he can be a companion to you going forward. Just, you can talk to him, write to him. He's going to be there. He has your back and will support you and love you always. And then another thing too, because people grieve it and they get angry, as I'll say to them, when that apology comes, it's okay. You don't have to. You didn't expect to hear that apology this side of life's veil. Dad needed to express it to you. But maybe some day or some night when you're laying at, awake at 2 a.m. and that thought crosses your head, you kind of go, whoa, and you can just take it in and know that they did the best they knew how at the time, that they were here functioning.
I mean,
So,
you've probably had this experience. I have this experience plenty of times where somebody will sit down across from me to get a reading, a mediumship reading, and they'll be very anxious because what are they going to say? What's going to happen? And I hope so and so doesn't come through, and because they don't know what they're going to say, they don't what they're going to hear. And I have to say, it's always spoken through love from the heart, for the first and foremost. And then sometimes hearing from the person you don't want to hear from could be the most healing thing
yes.
you could ever have in your life. And I've seen some amazing messages come through from, like you said, the father that didn't say he loved his children, or the father who was too drunk to notice his family. And there's a lot of healing that happens on the other side. And sometimes their healing is about coming through and through a medium, or in many different ways, not just through, to say, I love you. I want to make this right. And there is learning and growing on the side. Yeah.
And I think just knowing that they're there is wonderful. But I love when in mediumship, you can share something that has happened. Like, I was there to walk you down the aisle, even though you got married 6 months after my passing. I was there. And then, even right down to, like, he's, say example, like a dad is just saying that I know your delivery was tough, and, or this happened, and the person's going, yes. I'm like, well, he just wanted you to know he was there, helping from the other side. And I found that in hospice too. We'd have the people here, like, doing the ice chips and covering their loved one up. And I laugh because some come back going, I was so hot with all the blankets they piled on me, right? But they're doing this act out of love, and but then you think about the people that are in spirit that are on the other side going, we're here for you too. We're lifting you up, everybody who's involved. So yeah, I think the mediumship, a lot of times people think that it's got mixed reviews, right? It's more known and more popular now, but years ago, it was very closeted, not talked about. There were just very few that really shared it. Or you'd hear about some lady that was in a tea room or someone in a house, and you may seek those people out. But I think in knowing that it's just sacred communication and honoring it as that.
Absolutely. Sacred communication. It's spoken through love. Mediums are people who are very caring, loving people who want to help other people. They're usually very sensitive people. I don't think I know a medium who has a mean bone in their body usually, and they want to connect with spirit. They're connecting to the miracle aspect of life, and want, like you said, bring you another tool for your spiritual toolbox, so that you could be empowered and
Yeah.
not scared. You know, so mediumship. I talked about healing and balance with mediumship, and I wanted to talk a little bit about what it feels like and what spirit can offer to us for healing, the communication of having a family member who you're estranged from, or you struggled with, and they come in to say, I love you and I'm here for you. But there's more than that. There's when the loved ones come through, and there's a gentle healing that can come through the medium to the person that is sitting across from the medium. Have you experienced that, Raylene?
Yeah, there's been times where I can feel my whole persona shift. And
Mhm.
I almost feel like I look at the person, I know I'm looking at you, and I'm just, it's like I'm locked into a gaze. And it's just that feeling of just love, and that bond that you is incredible that people have shared, and you can feel it. And I'll get a flush, and I'll call it my truth bumps, and they're actually goosebumps, right? What people know it as. But I'll just get this warmth of this flush, or an awareness, and you can tell that they can feel it too. Somebody will be like, do you feel like it's colder or warmer? And I'm like, yeah. I go, but you know what? That's just love brushing up against you, letting you know that, they're here for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Even as a medium prepares, to connect with spirit, the medium has to move his or herself. We have to go into, like, I see it as a column of light, a column of love coming from source. I have to move myself into that aspect of energy, of spirit, of life, before I even can hear from them, if that makes any sense to you. I have to be aligned with spirit. And I feel like
Well,
is it
yeah, I always feel like they're there, because since having them around since childhood, and people would be like, aren't you exhausted? I'm like, no, people this side of the veil exhaust me. And I laugh, right? But in all honesty, I say it's almost like you've gone to the mall on a busy shopping day, and you're not going to bump into and talk to everybody that's around you. So it's almost like just people kind of, passing. And I've it's just, I know that I have friends that are mediums that do, meditate for quite some time before stepping into a session. I just always set my intentions for the highest and best for that person and their loved ones, that we can move forward in the day. Especially when you have people that go, look, I just don't want to hear from so and so. And I just go, I can't summons, I can't shoo them away. I open up, I serve them too. And we just have to see who comes. And if I see my guest is uncomfortable, a lot of times I'll be like, all right, we'll just like set that aside for now. And then they'll be like, well, they don't have any more to say. And I'm like,
plenty to
we'll,
say?
yeah,
Kind of like, but sometimes I have to remind people too. I can't guarantee who's going to come through. Spirit has their own agenda. They have their own free will, the same way we do. You can be invited to a
yeah,
party and not show up. But also the ones that we don't want to hear from, if they come through anyway, oftentimes they could be the host, or they're the ones bringing through the next person. They're the conduit for the mediums. I mean, for the spirits to come through the medium. So that feel like I have noticed that has happened from time to time, where
yeah.
a communicator has another communicator walk them through the process or something like that.
And your guest suddenly turns into a medium too, where you may give them a message to carry to someone who's not with you that day. And I understand what you said about, like, a lot of mediums being very loving and no mean bone in their body. But I do think, and I say this with loving kindness, we're so blessed to have that experience. But I think for some of my guests, when they come into a session and they've been told things, and they're just things that don't really, I've never really experienced or could be comfortable agreeing to. I think it's very wise of a guest to be discerning, to make sure, someone comes like, referred, or if something you're in a session and something's not comfortable, or things are being said that you just don't set right, you have a gut to trust in your intuition too, and I always say words are powerful, take what resonates and let the rest go. I've seen a lot where people who, if their child or a husband or mother or father, has committed suicide, and they've come in for a session and they've been told, yeah, and I'll bring them through and they know, and they're like, oh my God, it was like this all they wanted, that's all they needed, because they were told that the person didn't, so sometimes mediums or psychics, or however people label themselves, they carry their own personal stuff into it, perception. So
Well,
I think it's good to be very
that's a
discerning,
good point. That's
it's
a very,
like,
very good point. If
yeah,
it's a good match for you, and it's not a good match. It could be a bad day, or it could be just this personality of the medium, or the medium is a person and they're coming from a direction that you cannot relate to at all. Anything negative said, or like, for instance, this suicide and he's not in heaven anymore, would just be like, no, walk away. That's not correct.
right,
Or if they're saying something that's upsetting you, speak up and say, this is taking me to a place I didn't want to go.
yeah,
I think that what I was also wanted to try to say, what I was trying to say maybe also, is that when you're coming from that spirit, which is spirit is love, that's the loving, that's the energy that's going to come through when you're
right,
truly with that. That's what,
right,
for me, and that's a very healing energy. It's very powerful energy when it's there.
yeah.
And,
Because without, spirit, we wouldn't have this communication available to us.
true.
And people say, "Will you tell them I love them?" I'm like, I'd be very happy to. They don't need me. They just heard you. So
Yeah.
talk to them, open the conversation. I've suggested people sometimes write a letter to your loved one. They don't know where to put their grief, they don't know what to do, but it's like they see you, they hear you, they walk with you. I actually had a session where the dad let the daughter know, like he received the letter. And I'm like, he's going like this, so I know that you did something tangible. She goes, I did. And she had a little ceremony for herself with it. And it was just very nice and very healing for her. So I think it's sometimes knowing that you can have that connection and sitting in the silence and being present, sometimes just releasing the energy that's held in you, that you're feeling sad. And what's hard too is that, and the reason I kind of address this little part of it with the grief and the mediumship being the healing, is that it's just, people wonder why other people aren't over it. And it's just reiterating that we don't just get over it. We have to give people a timeline. So people feel isolated because everybody else's world's going on and theirs has changed so drastically. And I think that's when we can just bring that love and support in. It really is a happy thing. Even though there's tears, there's so much joy in mediumship. So I don't want to make it sound like it's just, all about the grief. But the reason people seek a medium is because they're grieving. We're grieving, right?
Yeah,
And we
absolutely.
don't escape it. I think the one blessing is coming to a place of having the experience to know that death is not the ending that we've been taught or as defined in the dictionary, you know?
Yeah, I absolutely feel that's true. I feel that in mediumship, we get that concept of when are they going to get over it? When are they going to get on? Well, there is no getting over it. There's only moving forward. And what except, and your life has turned upside down, and the medium brings meaning to the change called death, because the medium helps tell the story, or about how life is continuing after the change called death, how that really truly is happening. And the meaning that you bring into the loss is to know life isn't what I thought it was. Life is so much bigger. And the healing is knowing that everything's okay. Everything is in an order that is loving and caring and compassionate. It's just not the straight line. Like you said, it's not a straight line. It's just not the straight line we thought it was. You're
Yeah.
People that come through deep grief are coming and they're moving to find meaning, and they're finding a way to live with the grief, are coming at life from a totally different perspective than somebody who hasn't. And so that is almost like an initiation into a deeper meaning, the deeper meaning of life. Sometimes a death is an initiation in a sense. And we need to respect that. We need to have compassion for that.
Yep.
And we will see our loved ones. We will at
It's
some
really interesting too. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say,
No,
when you
no.
said that, it just popped in my mind that it's really interesting too to consider how when someone has an experience and it's really touched their soul, you planted that little seed and it grows. And then they may, share it with someone, they may share it with someone, or just even if it gives that little glimmer of hope that they realize that they too have the divine spark of the divine within them, and they are connected because we are threaded eternally, this side of the veil and that side of and you probably have found, I know you teach and stuff, you probably have found that someone has a session, they have a great experience, all of a sudden it's just sparked this little fire in them where they want to know more. How do I get to do this? How do I, and it's really interesting how some people will, take that journey, or work with like Reiki, or work with, different aspects of, divine healing. And it's, there's so many modalities. So people find their place or their niche. And, so it's just really nice to be able to open it up. I love it when children are so open and they're talking away to somebody, or they're describing somebody that wasn't here when they were born, or passed very early on, that they wouldn't have that recall. And or they'll be like, who is like Nancy? And
Yeah.
somebody would say, oh, that Nancy, why are you seeing Nancy? And it could be like the great aunt, that was a big part of the mom or dad's life. So I find that very interesting. So I think that a wonderful, healing mediumship experience, people carry forward, they share it, they get excited, but they also, I think it kind of sparks that, what can I do with this? Or especially artistically too, where you teach spirit art and stuff, right?
Oh,
You
there's so many
teach people drawing and
yeah. We should take a little break here, and then I'm going to talk a little about the spirit art. But I wanted to just tell everybody here that Raylene Sousa, you can find her on Raylene at her website, Raylene Sousa Medium.com. It's SOUSA. And the same thing on Facebook, it's Raylene Sousa Medium. And then the same thing on Instagram, Raylene Sousa Medium. And there's a little pattern there. So find her, look her up. She's very accessible. She's very much available to help you and give readings. So, and I bring the best people onto these shows so that you have tools and you have people to connect with. And I just want to talk a little bit about my mediumship. My website is angelscapes.net, and you can find me at Nancy of Angelscapes, because Nancy Smith is kind of there's a lot of us out there. So Nancy of Angelscapes, or just Angelscapes. I have my professional page, and my personal page is also, you could reach me through there. What I'm doing right now is I had taught mediumship quite a bit for a while, and then I kind of took a break from it. Now I'm coming back September 9th to teach mediumship and spirit art. So I'm combining the mediumship gifts of connecting with spirit and bringing messages, proving the continuity of life, basically describing the communicator. And we're going to pick up our pencils and our pastels, and we're going to draw. And you don't have to be an artist to do this, but what happens when you draw is that you start bringing through more information. It's a tool. It's another tool. As you draw a face, for instance, even though maybe you're not Rembrandt, but you're drawing the eyes, and then you see the last person that what that person saw through their eyes, or the last person they saw before they passed, or you're drawing the ears, or you feel that what do they like for music, and all of a sudden it's things come through, details come through with your artwork. And I remember drawing a set of keys for somebody. It was a kind of very plain set of keys, and it had a unique keys on it. And I, as I was bringing this gentleman's grandfather through, and he said that was the moment he actually absolutely knew it was his grandfather, because when his grandfather died, he left him the keys to the cabin, the lake house. And it was exactly that strange key with that very simple key ring. And those things come through just as much, like I guess intuitively, or just as quickly. You know, sometimes you say something in a mediumship and go, where did that come from? And the same thing with the drawing. Where did that come from? And then so I feel that this is something that I've done for many, many years, and have generally stayed with the traditional medium, but I'm breaking the box a little bit. And we're going to explore mediumship from another point of view, because we all use our pencils, we all write our names, we all can draw a letter, and you can also draw things that will bring you back to spirit. So that's starting September 9th, and all that information is on my Facebook page, both Nancy of Angelscapes. If you want interest, just private message me or email me at nancy@angelscapes.net. So that's the
I have to say something about that, like what you just said, because with spirit out, a lot of people see it as just drawing images, like the faces that resemble, or have certain features of the person that may be coming through in spirit. It's very interesting, and I really like how you said that, like, if you see keys, you do that. Like, you're taking like what comes through as even a message. Because a lot of times we'll say they're talking about the keys, but you're drawing, all of a sudden you're seeing it, but you're drawing that. And I love that you bring that together, that you marry that. It kind of reminds me of like when people do like, autographs, or, like a blend of, so it really, it's funny. I just got the image of like, a face, like a vision, and then like the little bubble thoughts all around it with, favorite things, or things that are identifying. I love that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful in-depth way of jumping in. And a lot of us are doodlers. A lot of us are just I'm a visual person. I think I've always thought through pictures and not words. It's been unusual. If you know anybody that thinks in pictures instead of words, it takes them a minute to decipher the picture into the words, but it's a natural way for me and many people to do mediumship. It's not taught all that readily. And I did study mediumship before I even picked a pencil up. It was 5 years before I picked a pencil up, because that's the traditional mediumship, was to say, well, this is what you must do first. And I've been realizing as I watch people is, why not use all the tools at your disposal? So
Oh yeah, definitely. When I was a young girl, I would draw faces constantly, just faces, and be like, who's that? And I'm like, I don't know. And then now when I reflect back, I have a very clear idea of what I was seeing and how they came to my imagination. And they weren't the people directly around me. So I really have to say, and I know I'm going a little off topic here, but really on topic of, I love that you said that about the keys. Like, it just stands out, like that's something personal, not just the face. Not that it's bad that it's just a face, but it kind of tells that whole picture. Like it does bring it together. And then and I love how that gentleman felt so connected to it because his dad gave him the keys to the cabin. It's like,
I couldn't have.
Very nice.
I was not getting the information to verbalize it. I was getting the information where I could draw it. So it was coming through another act of my perceptions. We have, as mediums and intuitives, we have lots of different perceptions. The information comes through lots of different ways, and sometimes the information can come through feeling, but then we're hearing something, and then marrying those two together gives you a deeper message. But if we're going to ignore the hearing or ignore the feeling, we won't get the full message. Is my take on using.
And it's really cool because people early on, when we first started finding language and civilization, they communicated with hieroglyphics, photo pictures, drawings. It wasn't like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and that's something that evolved over time. So it's really nice. So it just feels like you bring that natural like balance to the mediumship, adding not that the voice with the art, so it's
and
very
color.
nice. So
Yeah, and so anyway, yeah, it is very nice, and thank you for saying that, because I'm really excited to encourage people to
yeah.
we talk about. Here's the thing: a lot of people who come to study mediumship, Raylene, and I'm sure you I know you haven't taught, but I bet you've taught in a way. People who want to know about mediumship, who want to experience it, really want to experience their loved ones. They want to have that personal, like, I need to understand this, or I want to understand this because it'll help me make sense of the losses that I have. So studying mediumship it's not necessarily that you're going to go ahead and be a medium out in the world. It means that you're understanding that you too can connect with spirit, and you're simply a conduit. They can talk through you in lots of different ways. They talk through nature all the time, through birds, or I had 3 hawks circling around me the other days. They were all screeching, and I know there was a message there
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
spirit. And I
I
used to.
have taught, but I haven't taught for a little while. But I have to tell you, my beginner class sometimes was just mind blowing. Like I just the way I saw the growth in the first, half hour, because that person really was very naturally open, but was second guessing themselves. But the stuff that they said, I was like, why are you here, like teasing them? But I knew why they were there, because they needed that confidence, that boost, that guidance. Like we all, we're blessed to have different mentors or teachers along the way, and practice circles. And it's just giving them and holding space. So I have taught it like in person and online, just haven't for some time.
All right, but
But it's even
yeah,
just intuition, trusting your gut,
exactly. So
Yeah.
even that person it's amazing. You see the opening, and then for the first time ever, they're connecting with someone on spirit side, and it changes everything when you have that experience. It changes everything inside of you. Everything that you consider to be that straight line all of a sudden has lots of curves in it. And then when
Yeah.
you realize that you can talk to spirit, you also realize that you too are a spirit, and that there is even if that's the only thing you get when you're taking a mediumship class and you go home and you work with it for the rest of your life, you're ahead of the game. You've just gotten the biggest cheat sheet in the world, because now you know what happens and what we're born for, and what we're the biggest part of what we're meant to do is take what we've learned here, take the love that we have here, and take it to the other side, and it's golden. It's
Right.
it doesn't die, it doesn't end. So
And I think a thing I would love for people to, understand that we're born with free will, right? It's a gift to all of us. You have a choice to log out right now if you choose to. I hope you don't. I'm enjoying it. But I'm just saying you have that free will to do so. So when people transition, people be like, well, how come they're coming around? Like if they pass, are they stuck here? And I'm like, no, it's like a moth to the flame. They come to the love. Why would they not? They can come and go as they please. There's no trap, stuck, or lost souls. It's, in my, I don't, it doesn't sit right with me. So I know that we all have that free will. And, and it's hard for people too, because when they come into a session, they're tunnel vision. They've already made up their mind exactly who they're gonna and want to talk to. And as you said before, it may not be the person that you expected, but it may be the person that you needed. And you didn't even know you needed it.
And the other piece, you said they come in tunnel vision, and if it's my father, then he'll tell me this, and he'll do this, and she'll tell me that. And if she doesn't do any of that, then it's not my father. There's also a mistake and holds the reading back, because your father may have more to say to you than what you want him to say to you. he has a mind of his own. He still has his own mind. He still has his own thoughts, and he's gone through a tremendous amount of experience passing to the other side. I remember a woman lost her son. It was very, she was elderly, and he was an adult who had passed. And she had in her mind exactly what she wanted him to say, but he was so excited and wanted to explain to her what just happened to him. And he was giving so many details about what it was like to move to the other side, what his experience, what he felt like, what he saw, what he did. And she said, I don't want to hear any of that. I just want to hear him say the things he always told me every single day. And I understood her. I totally got where she was coming from. And I totally got where he was coming from. And they were not going to meet in the middle. But
Yeah.
it was just such a proof to me that spirit is they're not a shadow of the person they were. They're their own person.
They are their own person, and they are who they are. And I had a session where the girl, it was a private session, so I can't give great details, of course, but what was really, really interesting was that his name, how he passed, like all these things that you could consider like evidential or factual. At the very end, all she really wanted to hear is what he called her, what was her nickname. And I just said, I can appreciate you wanting to know that, but can't go down the whole list, kitten, princess, baby, you know what I mean? Like, and she just kind of smiled at me. I go, if he wants it, or if he can bring it to my data bank before we end the session, it'll come, right?
First one to hear it, but they got to get through
It's crazy what he was able to do, because I said something to her that I was like, I'm not really saying this, but spirit, I'm kind of putting on spirit, but he just says blah, 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 blah. And she goes, what? And the word that he called her was in my sentence. That was her nickname. And it was like my parting words. And it was this, I go, really? Never heard that one, so I can't really say it, but it was very, very unusual. And it was a word, something that came up in my sentence that he brought to mind, and it was interesting. So it was really cute. And she felt like, he's okay. He heard me. I go, yeah, because I never would have come up with that one.
I know.
Gone down the laundry list of love's nicknames, I would never have. But he was able to do it because he thought it was important at that time. I mean, even, people have found lost things in a session. Like, I had someone, they were looking for a wedding ring, and they were like, I checked everywhere. And I go, no, it was telling me it's in a little brown wooden box. Oh, no, I checked. We do have a little brown wooden box. I went back in there and I checked. Next thing you know, I get a message. She went back in the little wooden box, and his wedding ring was there, because he didn't like wearing one. So it was he'd keep it off, and then she couldn't find it. He'd put it on if they went to dinner. So it was so cute. But she was so big, spirit's able to do it. I don't know for certain it's in a little brown box, but we also as mediums build that trusting relationship, because, with them, and it's, not having the fear of being wrong,
Right.
that's a big thing. You don't have to be right, just hopefully communicate it.
Sometimes as mediums, we have to let go of, am I right or wrong? I'm going to give you what I have. I'll give you what I'm feeling, what I'm sensing, what I'm seeing. And as mediums in the sessions, we've turned ourselves totally over to spirit, and we give what we get. That you have to let go of that fear, or you're not gonna, or you're gonna, it becomes a block. But I have a question for you. One of the people on Facebook, somebody's written in. I was wondering if the mediums guides, spirit guides, help bring loved ones through for the readings, or do the loved ones come through on their own? What's your experience of that, Raylene?
Loved ones come through on their own. Years ago, mediumship was set up that, it was like a hierarchy, like with guides. But what I've found for me, like, people say to me, who's my guide? I'm like, that's personal. You sit with it, you can do a meditation for it. But I really feel that a lot of times it's someone's loved one that's guiding them. And it depends on what you're going through in life. So to answer that question, I just I just go to the source. I just open up to the source of the loved one that wants to come through. And, and sometimes it was maybe someone who was the nanny, the babysitter that opens the door, that's in spirit, that's been just, 7 or 8 years in the child's life, feels like a mom, but it was the nanny. Do I always say nanny? No, I just say it just feels like it's either mom or someone who is just like a mom, because I know they're a part of your care, like your daily care. And then you might find that out. And and then it's like kind of cool, because then they're with different people and they bring in people, and it's really is like a little family reunion sometimes. So how was your experience with that? I know you do Akashic records and different things like that. So I don't know if that incorporates
Well,
guides like from
well,
the past.
so I'm right with you. Like the loved ones come straight through. It's directly from the horse's mouth, as it were. And sometimes spirit will help spirit, definitely. How guides work in my life, in my readings, is sometimes when there's a tremendous amount of angst and grief and emotional strife. And I will and I will reach out to my guides, or I'll reach out to their soul or their guides or their angels. I love working with the angels to bring comfort in the reading while the message is being delivered. So that's kind of how they work in me. And if and if I need help in terms of the communication, like I said in that earlier reading, the spirit was saying one thing, mom wanted something else, and I'm like, I would talk to my guides. I would talk about the soul, their soul, or the angels, and say how can we work this through. And sometimes I'll find out, well, you can't work it through because or they'll give me a bridge that but mostly I go straight to the communicator, and I stick to the communicator through the entire reading. And if guidance is happening, it's behind the scenes. It's
Yeah, it's like I always give spirit credit for everything. So who it is in that moment or second, I can't always articulate it. But for me, I just feel like it's coming in through, it's like a love's gateway opens, and that's where we go, But it is really interesting. And and it's hard sometimes too, because as mediums, we may do a lot of public demonstrations, right? So we've got a room full of, could be 100 people, and everyone's hopeful for a message. And I know it's very hard sometimes, because you can only work to get around the room so much. Time is of the essence, so to speak. So you may, spend time. And I know a lot of times people could walk away feeling that I knew my loved one wasn't going to come. I knew. And I'm like, even mine were there holding space so that the others, we could witness it. Because a lot of times the gift is witnessing the sacred communication. So even if it wasn't, say, your dad who said this, this, and this, if you feel like that whisper, like there's someone, you can feel it inside of you. That's also, your presence of your loved one is there to lift it up. It isn't because they're not hurtful. If you had like 20 hours and you could go, boom, 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 we could have individual conversations. And that's why I think sometimes people will keep going to the galleries very hopeful, which is nice. But I think a big part of it is a private session so different, because that one-on-one, the energy and the focus is all on that person and their spirit family or their physical family, and what's going on with all of them.
Yeah. But no, I totally see that. Have you ever had this experience where you're in a big group like that, and somebody will say, that could have been for me? Sometimes I'll have 5 people come up and say, that could have been mine, that was mine, that was mine, that was mine. I said, well, that was the greatness of spirit, that they were in all these places at all the same time, where I was working with one person specifically. They were understanding the message. If it's reverberating with other people in the room, then take it. Let spirit talk to you, because sometimes when we open as mediums, or in a situation like a demonstration, we're opening the door for spirit to talk to all of us, and spirit will sit right next to you and say, pss, 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 that, by the way, I mean that too, that ditto to that. That's for you too. But they call it the economy of spirit. I heard one person refer to that. The economy of spirit. Get as many
I
people
like that. Yeah. Yeah, I like that, saying it that way. I just feel like a lot of times, we put like, say, tissue boxes around or they're in a room. And I've learned that I don't, especially with the grief certification, I do not like hand someone tissues. I'll put the box there gently because we've taken tissues, like we're doing it to help, but people, we take it as a sign to stop. And tears can be very healing. So I always say, let it flow, let it out, right? But I always invite people when I do a gallery, letting them know that we're here to support each other. We raise the vibration together. All of our loved ones are here. Mine may come in, I might see my dad's face and be like, is it? And I'll pause for a second and get, well, it might be dad, but it could be that they were very active in a club like the Lions Club. It depends on what I see on my dad to see what shows up. So yeah, loved ones are always around us and other people's.
Your dad is standing
Yeah.
next to you, helping you bring the spirit through that is going to come through. So in a sense, you're getting help from somebody for a brief moment until the energy builds up and then you're in directly with the spirit. Yeah.
Because mediums too, we use the psychic, abilities like the clear seeing, the clear audience, clear hearing. And a lot of people like they, have different strengths and, we can all work on it to strengthen it. But some people are just natural feelers. Some people are natural seers. Some people are natural hearers, and I think that it's even for mediums that are learning and growing is to be happy with your gifts and start to explore them. And if you're interested, explore other things, but don't take away from what you can do because it may not be what you see someone else do. Don't compare. Be the medium that divine made you. Be who you are because you have data information. Like when we do a double link in a gallery with the same spirit family, it's amazing to me how different loved ones and different information, even if it is the same level, will come through for a person in the audience between the two mediums. Because they're working with, my data bank, your data bank, another medium's data bank, and we come together and it just seems to blend right in.
I've had that experience many times where you would link into a spirit and they come through and you're talking, and then I'm linking in through you, the same spirit, and I'm standing behind you. I'm sitting next to you drawing the face while you're describing.
I think that's really neat.
The face is coming out, and it's very exciting. I love doing that because again, my perspective is giving them one aspect, and your perspective is giving them the other aspect, and there's very deep or there's an in-depth connection with the double linking, whether it's with a spirit artist or another medium. You're getting different personalities. Remember, the mediums are personalities and they do have their own personal data bank they're working with. And if you want a medium to be just like the medium that you saw on TV, or you saw a medium 3 years ago and you're going to see another medium and they have to do exactly what that other medium did, forget about it. We're just all individual people with different personalities and different ways of, the data banks come from our living experiences. So,
and I explain that to guests. I always say, ask them, have you been to medium? I said, well, I just want to explain how I work or how I connect or how I spend time, however I phrase it in that moment. I just want them to be, comfortable knowing, the whole thing about words are really powerful. Take what resonates and let the rest go, because it really is all about, it doesn't feel right. And even, I don't know, like in a session, I'll get something out of my mouth, like I'll say something and I'm hearing, no, that's not how I meant it, like from spirit. So I'm already starting to look again to be able to say it in a different way. And the person's looking at me and like, no, I know it's no, we'll just do it. And they'll go, not quite understand. I go, you don't have to, let's do that, and then spirit just brings it through in a different way. So it's kind of acknowledging that, you know what? I may not get everything right. Like somebody who goes to skate, they can slip or fall, but you just kind of, as long as you're willing to just be open and see things in a new way. Because in mediumship, there's a lot of stuff that you do see that you don't even bring to the table because it's going to cause more harm, like living through the death of a loved one, if it was traumatic or tragic. We know how they died. It's nice when they bring the information, you can validate it. But when it gets graphic, no, no, no.
They really,
I just find that you're going to add to their pain rather than help to lighten it for them in that moment, because they're coming hopeful that their loved one's happy, healthy, and whole.
right. And then talking about, yeah, that personality, and then a message will sneak in, and another message will sneak in, and that's what they want to experience. I have a story to tell. Just to hope you don't mind. I had permission to share this story, but I had somebody come to me for guidance, for help with people, two people in our family ready to pass. And how do I help them? What do I do? And it was overwhelming. And so what we did was, and she was very gifted. She a very gifted, intuitive person, and I felt that she had really strong mediumship skills. And I said, let's talk to soul. And by the way, in mediumship, in some of the Akashic Records work that I do, but I've learned that we can talk to each other soul to soul. If we just cannot get what's going on, we can go through, open up sacred space and go into, with the help of your soul and the angels, to sit and let the higher self to higher self, let's talk. And she had connected higher self to a close friend who was really close to passing, and a family member who was right there behind him. And she asked, in this sacred space, she asked, what do you need? How can I help you? And there, a lot of specific information came through. And as she was talking to this loved one who's getting ready to pass, the family member came into the table, into the dining room, where we're all sitting there having a higher power conversation. And the friend turned to her relative. They didn't know each other. And he said, I know you're worried. I'm going to help you. I've got your back. We're together now. And at the end of the session, they walked out together. And she felt much at peace. She had her instructions of what they wanted and needed. And she also had a sense of spirit is together. We're all connected. They're not alone. And so we ended the session, and I was really happy that she was feeling calmer. And she calls me 2 hours later and she said, he passed while we were in session. He was really there. He was really talking to us. And I know he's going to take care of my relative, because he said he would. And the relative was much calmer, and things had shifted over at that point. So I was blown away by the amazing grace that spirit has, and the power and compassion that we have within our own hearts and selves as human beings, and the spirits within ourselves. But when spirit is just spirit, they're very
No ego, no ego, and it's just a beautiful place to be. And you've mentioned a couple things, like you say, conduit for spirit. That's how I refer to myself. I'm just the in between. It's just opening up. In everything I do, I always explain as soul to soul communication. So I love that because I think that's really key for people to understand that we're all threaded in oneness, and we're threaded on this side of the veil, and I know we say veil because the veil's thinner. It's just, it really tries to help people have the perception that, heaven's not here and hell's not there, as traditionally thought or talked about or shared, that they're around us. And people will be like, why can't I see them then? I'm like, maybe feel them. That maybe it's not that we're supposed to see them, but we can feel them. A lot of times people will get a sense that someone's behind them, and they get like creeped out. I go, that's Hollywooding it. Ask or see what image or who you see the next time you have that feeling. You might be surprised.
may not see it.
They're amazing.
Or you may have one word, or it may come in little bits and pieces, but that's okay. It's still there. And just a reminder, we're spirits having a human experience. And I sometimes think that spirit stands next to us and goes, if only, because the human body holds us into a certain
They're going,
dimension,
hello,
holds us
hello.
up.
Yeah.
Right here, it's okay, we're all good. And but we are soul and spirit in a human body, and we will continue after the human body kind of gets tired and passes on, and we still exist, and we still grow, we still learn. And if we can remember that while we're going through these traumatic times, it's probably a huge scoop of comfort that will help you lead you through the grief, to know this not in a cynical way, but in a very loving, caring way. This is how life is designed. So we have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and we have a wonderful ending. We're going home, as opposed to this being home, and everything is based around here. It's really based around that spiritual connection, and that love, and that compassion. And it sounds kind of hokey sometimes, or sounds like hard to believe, because life can be so harsh. And because we do fall in love with people, we do love our peoples, and we love them to be just the way that we want them to be. And then they change, and then our hearts are broken. But that too shall pass, because
I
spirit
could
is.
talk about this all night.
Oh,
They just amaze me, and it brings me to another thought, when I'm hearing you, share, and it's just so true. And I think that we as humans complicate it. We need everything proved to us, and I think we have a chance here. I'll say to people, you know what, if you really want to think about healing, think about the things that maybe you wish someone had done for you, and check in and see if you're doing that for your loved ones. Is there someone out there that you may feel as though you want to say, hey, I'm sorry, or I haven't been there, or don't be afraid. What's the worst thing that could happen? It's the actions. We're all accountable as souls. We're all accountable for our own actions, not another's. So check in with your soul and see where you're at, and see if you're comfortable, because sometimes people want to pick up a phone and say, I'm sorry, and they feel more miserable inside because they're not. And I say, just pick up the phone, say it. If it's not received, that's okay. If not, you're probably going to come back through a medium and try to say you're sorry. And then they have suffered the loss of you, so then they may be open to it. So I think it's so important for us to really live our story now. And as the story unfolds, it's going to continue as we transition. It's not really an ending. And it could look at the beginning. I don't know. I mean, I always say when I transition, I'll know. I can give it to you straight. And maybe if I am here, I don't know. I don't pretend to know what I don't know. I always say we'll leave that to God to explain at the end of the day,
List of things that I'm hoping God will explain when I get there. I'm hoping I don't lose this list. It's in my back pocket. What was that? And where's this going? Where were you going with this? Because didn't understand it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely, we could rewrite stories, would probably rewrite a few of them, but it's okay. We have to go through them with grace and just realize that everything is designed to help us evolve to our highest and best,
Yeah. So rewriting
And
those stories, how we can rewrite those stories is to find out what the meaning of them are, to find out what the grace was, to find out where did we learn, or what I call them soul redirects. Where were we going, heading off in this direction, and this niggling thing happened that pushed us off to this other direction? Why? Where? Or maybe not why is it even important, or what did you want me to collect in that direction when I was so busy looking over here? It's just trusting that the redirects or the pauses, the things that we trip over, are moments to take another look at something that may be very important to you, that you weren't thinking about it. I was it's the age old story of like reaching out to them. You've been thinking about this person over and over and over again, and then you don't reach out to them, and then they're gone, and you didn't pay attention to your intuition. And so maybe sometimes when you trip over something, or you get interrupted or disrupted, ask, what did you want me to see that I wasn't seeing before? What are you trying to show me? And see if there's an answer there for you. And then make that phone call, or take that person to the movies, or write that letter, or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's because everyone's got their perception, and most everyone spends their time looking back or
Yeah.
looking ahead. They're not looking around in the present moment. And that's all we really have. And it sounds low, but it's so true. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We just have to trust in it and live forward, knowing that if we can,
Yeah.
achieve those things that, do unto others as you want them to do, not do to you type of thing. Like there's so many, kindnesses that people miss out on even doing. Like some of the greatest gifts I've seen people give is through the loss of a child. I've seen families start nonprofits to help people that were in their shoes get through the bright hospital lights and the doctors and the treatments and the loss. And they bring them together for retreats. And it came out of their deepest pain, but they found purpose and they live forward and they're helping other people. And then you see it spin off to somebody else doing it. And it's incredible. I see this with a lot of young couples that have lost children. Now they're probably in their 40s, and they've really established themselves helping others through their pain. So it's like pain to purpose, right?
Exactly. And
So
those people are amazing, and they help, they're just amazing, and how they bring positivity to the other people who are just in that dark space that they were. And I really
yeah,
admire when people do that. I really admire the people when they dig down and find that strength to say, and now here's what I'm going to do to bring, to bring meaning into this trauma that I went through. That's healthy grief, I feel.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It
it
doesn't have
is.
death. It could be healthy grief from a divorce, or healthy grief from, you losing a relationship with a family member, where you're just alone. Dad isn't going to talk to you anymore. It's done and over. Dad's gone, and he's still alive. But if you pick up the phone, it's not going to make a hill of a difference. And so you just move on. But moving on with knowing that you're spirit, and knowing that there's forgiveness, and knowing that there's purpose and there's love, no matter which
And I
way.
think it's honoring the space of grieving as it's an individual space for every person. We can't judge how someone grieves. Sometimes people keep the rooms looking like exactly like the day the person last slept in the bed. Other people have to clear it out, change it. And there's no right or wrong. It's what's comfortable. It doesn't mean one person loved that person more than that person. It's how people are handling it. And it's honoring it and not finding, judgment. That's the one thing too, is if we could take out the judgment, the judging if this is, it's just, yeah, I sit there and go, my God, people are judging how somebody else is grieving. We don't know their relationship. You could have 10 kids in a family, and there could be 3 siblings that are the best friends and 7 that are on the side. You just don't know why the team splits, because
Nope.
it's perception and experience. So yeah, yeah, it's really interesting. That it's funny, the grief and the healing and the mediumship, it just has a barrel roll effect, and it goes right into all these other things, because it can't be just defined simply, because it's something so much greater than us. And I know people use it for entertainment purposes. I get it. And I, you know, I think that the expectation should be that when they're witnessing it, whether for themselves or someone else, that it's really sacred union, sacred communication. And then I think people will see it and take it in a little different and realize, whoa, if that applies to them, that applies to me.
Mhm.
I like that this isn't it. I'm very, my trust in spirit is unshakable at this point, as far as where I'm going and what I'm doing. I had someone ask me the other day, are you afraid to die? And I went, nope. I go, years ago, yes, very, very, like, because I was like, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
it was just this, feeling of stuck in the middle of right or wrong, and now it's realizing, yeah, I'm going to be accountable for my own actions. And
Yeah.
what am I going to do with that now? And it's just knowing I have options and choices and internal progressions open to every human soul. And people don't realize it, or if they do, they wonder what people are doing as they progress. I think I saw a dad today that was just off fly fishing. And it was something they always wanted to do, but never did when he always talked about off fly fishing. I'm like, how peaceful of a picture to have of somebody.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that is such a beautiful. Saw him fly
It's
fishing.
fun.
I know a couple people who'd love to hear that. He was off in heaven fly fishing.
Fly fishing,
But nice,
it's
yeah.
fine. But so I wish you the best with your class and everything. It's exciting. Your spirit art mediumship class,
And
right?
oh, thank you. It's exciting, and it'll be happening probably now, and then it'll happen again in February. But mostly, thank you so much for coming on board. And I just got carried away thinking about all the stuff a mediumship can do. But it's time now to end this episode. And Raylene, thank you so much. You have such great input.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and thank for everybody that Chef. I feel like I'm just really talking to a friend, just enlightening people with what my experience is, but everyone's experience is different, and we just have to honor that.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
And to everybody, as I end this episode, just remember that there are amazing people. Look up Angelscapes podcast on YouTube. Look it up on all of your podcast platforms. We're there. Like Angelscapes wherever you are, so we get more viewers. But remember that each interview has something for you to take away to build up your soul power and your grace while you're here in this life. So take advantage. So till next time, bye-bye.
Thank you for joining the Angelscapes podcast. We hope you've gained new insights and inspiration for your journey to uncover and access your soul's power. For more information and a deeper dive into finding clarity in your life, go to angelscapes.com. Remember to subscribe so you can be part of the discussion. It may just change your life. See you next time.